Welcome, welcome to the Wellther Series. This is number 2 of 4 with Doug Lawrence, and we are exploring and discovering the world of mentoring. And on today's connection, what we thought we would do is take a look at something called mentor, great mentor, extraordinary mentor. And I love to get that extraordinary in there to be able to play with it, because I believe that what we're involved with is to deliver extraordinary experiences. That's what IMC, that Doug and I are connected with. And I know Doug does that in his own company, Talent Seed, in terms of Talent Seed People Services, is deliver extraordinary experiences. What I do in the wealth movement, extraordinary experiences. So let's unpack it today in relation to mentoring. And I think that's where we're going with the Wellther Series with Doug. So Doug, to get us started, this notion of it would seem like a hierarchy, right? Of mentor, great mentor, and extraordinary mentor. When you came up with those terms, you must have leaned into something that had a bit of a hierarchy story, because this sort of evolved for you. Do you want to get us started with that?
So maybe I'll set the stage first, where the idea sort of started to percolate. And so every second Saturday, I host what I call a mentoring circle. So I bring together like-minded people. There are people that are currently mentoring individuals. There are people that want to meet people that are mentors. There are people that have personal or professional challenges that they want to be able to talk their way through, and they feel safe in this mentoring circle. So that sort of sets the stage. So that what I was seeing as I was watching the people and how they interacted with each other was I was seeing people that had varying skill sets, varying mentoring skill sets. And they would come at things from a different angle, different approach. And so one of the times I had actually proposed, are all of us in the room together, would you say we were all mentors? Would you say we're all great mentors? Or would you say we were extraordinary mentors? And we actually were able to break that down into different categories. And it was those very same words that we use: mentor, great mentor, and extraordinary mentor. So where the idea for this, where this actually started to come from, was Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, where he talks about the 5-level hierarchy for leaders, for leadership. And because I've done a fair amount of research on leadership and mentoring and the similarities between the two, what I saw was, in Collins's book, was definitely, okay, so there's the 5 levels of the 5 levels of hierarchy. But ironically for me, the same sort of story, give or take a little bit, the same story seemed to be starting to take shape, starting to be molded for mentoring as well. Was that we have, God bless everybody that goes out there and does whatever they can mentoring wise, but we actually have percentages of people that come at this from different angles. And I guess from that, what I'm getting at is we have people that have spent a little bit of extra time and effort, have taken some training and so on and so forth, and have kind of risen to the challenge of becoming a great mentor. And then we have even a smaller percentage of individuals that have seen that they can provide a deeper and richer experience, right? So they can provide a deeper, richer experience by taking some additional training, going through a certification of some sort, so on and so on. And what they have seen is that, and this is, I think, what really makes an extraordinary mentor stand out, is that they too learn and grow from their mentoring experience that they have with somebody else. And not everybody can actually wrap their head around that.
So it's like we could use words like transformation. We can use words like transcendent. And I think that where you're going is we're living in our lives and we're going through transition. shift, all right? And this notion that when you are a mentor and you're learning about it, often it's very much a transactional, right? It's a little like give, take, because you don't really know how to frame up maybe the arrangement. You don't know how to be in the relationship. So there's a bit more transactions that starts to take place. I think if we borrow from Collins and we start looking at the great mentors, they're starting to get into the transformation. They're shifting the form. They start to see the importance of the structure, the relationship, and the why you're getting together and how to form that. And I think you would probably agree, but I'm going to put it out to you when I say the following, is that the transcendent approach to mentoring, this extraordinary, is you don't always know where you're going to end up together, because you're open to transcend that arrangement, that relationship, and go, whoa, hey, we're in a completely different place than what we thought. We didn't just shift the form, we shifted the form, and we're in a different kind of place. So what would your thoughts be towards using those kind of words in that hierarchy you're speaking about?
Definitely, most definitely. And I think that part of that is that, and there's the difference between, say, a mentor, a great mentor, and an extraordinary mentor, is that for the extraordinary mentor, there is no roadmap. It's a journey. We're going on a trip together, so to speak, right? We don't know where we're going to go. We don't know how we're going to get there, but together we're going to work our way through this. And when I know for me personally, when I use that approach to work with people, I'm able to make significant inroads in being able to help move them on that journey to be able to deal with a number of different situations and issues. You know, I think of just a real quick example. I think of a young man that I worked with that they had gone through trying to coach and do a number of other things, and they were at their wits' end what they were going to do, other than the next step was termination. And it was through, you know, the approach that I took was, let's try a couple different things to see if it works. You know, first, and for me, it was getting the person to believe that I believed in their capability, that, you know, we're going to do whatever it took, whatever we needed to do to provide the guidance that was needed and get them back on the journey, on the right path. And as it turns out, you know, I was able to, within the 3 sessions that I used to spend time with this person, completely turn them around from being an introvert to now becoming an extrovert, and being able to interact with people, to be able to take the positive experience that I gave him, for him to turn around and make that a positive experience for the people that he served. So, you know, I think the words, you know, the words that you were using fit quite nicely into the descriptor, you know, of the sort of the 3 different levels, or the, you know, the levels of hierarchy that we're talking about.
Yeah, I was in the bookstore the other day, and I usually go in and scan the business books just to find out what's coming up. And I noticed the use of the word transcendence with the word leadership. And I went, oh, okay, so nice little thick book there, ready to go to read. And we've gone through a lot of the transformational leadership kind of books. And I went, okay, here we go. So in some ways we're catching up to what we're talking about here. But I think what's really important for everyone, because Doug and I are involved with it, is the international mentoring community and what we're setting up there. From a certificate of achievement and a certificate of competence, is to really get people into the world of being an extraordinary mentor, delivering extraordinary experiences. And any thoughts around, you know, the continuation of that thought line, Doug?
Part of what we're trying to do with the international mentoring community is provide mentors the opportunity to become extraordinary mentors. And I'm going to, you know, I was asked this question at a mentoring circle: what percentage of the mentors that are out there today would you say would be extraordinary? And I said, you know, right off the cuff, I got thinking, well, I know Jim Collins's book, it's the top 5% are the level 1 leaders. I'm starting to lean towards, the 5 to 10% of mentors that are out there today are probably extraordinary mentors. And a large part of that is through, how they've got to where they are today is obviously it's, best practices, but it's also, continuous learning. It's all about, and, what we offer with the international mentoring community isn't offered anywhere else, where you can go through our program, and the program is such that it focuses on competence. And that's what it's going to take for people to make that leap and go from being a great mentor to an extraordinary, is to be able to ask yourself, am I competent in being able to do this, right? And I think that's what's going to set it apart.
I agree. And what would you say is like 2 or 3 of the extraordinary characteristics of an extraordinary mentor?
For me, it's one that it's hard to nail down, but I have found that this has served me really, really well, and it's intuitiveness. And it's an interesting conversation, because we actually dissected that at one of the mentoring circles, and normally we only spend maybe an hour, and we've actually spent probably close to 3 hours going back and forth and dissecting, well, what is it? How does that apply? Is it something that you're born with? It comes back to leadership, right? Are great leaders born, or can they evolve? And it was, the skill set of being very intuitive. Is that something you're born with? You're just naturally intuitive, or is that something that you can grow into? And I think it comes back to the same thing that Collins talks about and we're talking about. Intuitiveness is something that comes at different levels. And some people have that innate gift that they can just sense or feel when something is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. If I was to add a combination, it would be patience, flexibility, and discretion.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, is that I learned those in a world where machine guns were being stuck up my nose.
Yeah.
And this idea that, you've got to be patient with the soldier that I'm interacting with, and be flexible and answering the questions, and not trying to be smirky about it or try to do things that would be worm your way out of. You got to be, that presence that you're, and being intuitive, right, to what's going on with, but also the discretion of not making a big deal of it, right, and not spreading words around that would be harmful. Not so much from my experience with the soldiers, because I would not know their families, but when you bring it into what it is that you hear stays with you, right, kind of thing. And so patience, flexibility, and discretion and intuitiveness, these are elements that really bring the story out about what it means to be an extraordinary mentor.
And I would add 2 more to that. I would add great communicator or effective communicator. And how I look at that is it's the same thing we talked about mentoring and effective mentoring. I always refer to it as communication and great communicator, or communicator and great communicator. And I think it's that ability to be able to, communicate effectively, to be listening for trigger words, for deflections, for, the ability to understand body language and know when, you may have pushed a couple of the wrong buttons with this person that you're spending some time with. And then the other thing is the whole aspect of the trusting relationship. So it's the ability to be able to, to me, an extraordinary mentor is somebody that's almost a natural thing that they do, is when they sit down, you feel safe in their presence, and almost like it's, the trusting relationship is already starting to be built just by spending time in that room together.
Yeah, and you touched on that in the video one. So I would certainly encourage people to go back and just explore that again. The this element of trust really is important because it's just key to how you're going to be together, how it's going to unfold for one another. And you break that trust, and things can implode, and it's broken, it's gone, right? Kind of idea. But I'd just like to go back to the sense of hierarchy. Um, is it a hierarchy of one gets you to two, two gets you to three, or is it one is sort of nested in two, two and one are nested in three? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'd agree with the aspect that they are definitely nested within one another, and I don't think it's certainly not from my perspective. I don't think that it's you have to be a mentor first before you can become a great mentor, because I think that there are people out there that have, it's almost like it's a natural ability at being an extraordinary mentor. They're the sort of, it's almost like a leader, right? They have followers, and like, because when I take a look at how blessed I've been with getting introduced to a number of different people to be able to provide some mentoring for them, it's all been based on previous experiences. And so, you know, and then when I sort of take a look at some of the folks that I've seen that are doing mentoring, that are what we'll call, for the sake of this conversation, is they're a mentor. Um, they're putting their heart and soul in it as best they possibly can, but they've probably, from a mentoring perspective, I don't see them advancing to maybe becoming a great mentor or an extraordinary one.
So in a sense, someone could, as we've said in IMC, you can sort of leapfrog a lot of stuff, and you could
Yeah,
actually, oh, hang on a minute, I think we're in the presence of someone who is an extraordinary mentor.
yeah,
And being human, being natural, being for the world just is there for them.
yeah.
All right. And I've met a couple along the way. I've been fortunate. One of my very first mentors, well, I would have called him now an extraordinary mentor because of the way he helped me to explore this world of creativity and the creative process. Because I was working as a playground leader at the time.
Okay.
And he got me to become a playground supervisor. And then I became like a program supervisor. And that all happened like within a couple of years. Whoosh! Like it just, how he got me to see this notion of the creative process and how I could apply it to what it was that I was doing. And that I was then on stages when I was 18, talking about creative processes at conferences, right? Because it just sort of came out of me because of being human, being natural, being for the world. It just flowed out of me, and I didn't necessarily see it. I would not have called myself extraordinary at the time, and I will leave it to others to define if I'm
Yeah,
extraordinary now,
yeah,
right? But I understand what that feels like, okay, and sort of tastes like, and I think that that's important. So, any thoughts about that?
yeah. When I reflect back on a lot of the people that I had as mentors, I would say that probably the large percentage of them would be what I would now call a great mentor. They weren't as committed to the mentoring process, understanding the mentoring process, as what I now see in someone who would be extraordinary.
Yeah.
And when we talked about that at the last mentoring circle, it was somewhat humbling for me, because the people that were there all felt that I was what they would call an extraordinary mentor, and I by no means have gone out and self-categorized myself to in any one of those. I'm just very passionate about what I do, and I want to be able to create that deeper, richer mentoring experience for the people that I'm able to reach out and touch, right? So, but to hear somebody else say it, it 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 has a different flavor to it.
Yes. Well, I think that what Doug and I have done in the international mentoring community and creating the profile for the certificate of achievement, certificate of competence, is to go and look at what's the best of mentoring, and this notion of doing it from an extraordinary point of view, so that when you get involved with what we're sharing with you, it starts to unfold in that way for you, that you're learning it and then actually practicing it in that way. And that's why we're always open to, well, maybe there's another element we haven't thought about. And that's why we always encourage out of the community. And anyone listening to this, if you've got some ideas about mentoring, we would appreciate it. You can always add it to the comments section below. So that's great, right? So what would be one piece of sage advice, an extraordinary mentor sharing a very interesting piece about mentoring right now?
For me, I would say that if you want to create that opportunity for change in a person's life, then you need to elevate your game to sort of the next level. So you need to, if today you're a mentor and you want to make that big of a difference in someone else's life, help shape and change the direction, the journey that they're going to go on, then you need to take those steps to be able to do so. And as I always like to say, you need to embrace the gift of mentoring, because it is a powerful, powerful tool that can and does change the lives of many, many people who are fortunate enough to be hooked up with a mentor, a great mentor, or an extraordinary mentor.
So with that, thanks, Doug. We had an exploration, discovery of mentor, great mentor, extraordinary mentor. So we look forward to the third in the series, the Wellther Series with Doug Lawrence. So take care, Doug.
All right, thank you.